You twisting your hat to the side, brother. You good?
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? We are
What's up?
here. I'm Antoine.
I'm
I'm
Vince.
A Love. I'm Al.
And welcome to the Crosstalk Collective, man. You know, we just three good brothers that decided to do a collab, man. Vince and Al, y'all want to talk about the shows that y'all are doing separate and apart from this?
Uh, Go ahead, Vito.
Yeah, well, obviously we go live every Monday on Instagram, and that's been doing pretty well. Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. if you're on the West Coast, right? And so we've been doing that for almost 3 months now. So one of the things about 3 weeks ago we talked about collaboration. When we talked about this, I was like, hey, we can't talk about it and not be about it. So here we are.
No doubt, no doubt. And that's Mondays at, say the time again.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 p.m. Pacific.
No doubt. Let's talk. Good, man. Y'all are killing it. And it was when I tuned into that show, I was like, man, I got to get with these brothers. But separate and apart from that, you also do community conversations.
Yeah, community conversations. A lot of that is, really just to bring awareness to a number of things that happen in the community. Usually try to keep it local to Columbus. But nonetheless, there's still a lot of people doing great things in their part of the country and part of the world. So we've had judges, we've had teachers, we've had professors, we've had preachers, we've had nurses, we've had doctors, we've had a number of individuals on, and we just want to keep it going. I mean, I just want to bring awareness to parts of our community that don't get that much love.
No doubt. And Alvin has Block Talk.
Oh man, yeah, I got Block Talk. That's Wednesdays. It's really like a 8-week kind of series, 9-week series where myself and some young brown brothers get together and we talk about things. We're from LA, with all LA cats, different parts of LA. You come to LA, it's not Hollywood. You got South Central LA. That's where I'm from. East LA. That's the one. My Mexican homie, he's from East LA. He's like, it's the only Mexicans in East LA, and I never really paid attention to that. But he told me some stuff about their culture over there and how they get down, and I was like, whoa. And then the other homies from Mid City. So it's just LA guys, man, trying to build relationships and show other people in LA that black and brown people can get together, and just chop it up and get to learn each other and stop being divided and start to have to see what our commonalities are so we can strive towards thriving together as opposed to being on the bottom. So yeah, that's Block Talk. That's Wednesdays. That's 7 p.m. West Coast time, which would be 4
Yeah. We're gonna have to deal with that all night, man. And I don't know if I would be able to deal with that.
You'll be all right.
and of course, I'm Antoine Brown, man, and I host Crosstalks with Antoine on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's 3 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. And we just try to have some real conversation. So again, three brothers that really just got mad love for each other, appreciate what each other is bringing to the table, man. And when I think about it, I think we mentioned this, a couple of weeks ago, that, one of the things that the pandemic has done is it has brought good people together, man, and allowed us to be able to collaborate. Whereas before, with Al being out west, you've been in the center, in the Midwest, if you will, and you've been on the East Coast, we might have never had this opportunity. But where there's a will, there's a way. And I think really, with all of us being men of faith, God kind of brought this together. So, I'm grateful for it. So Alvin, let the people know what our platform is, man, what we doing here.
Man, we're doing everything. You name it, we're doing it. This is Crosstalk Collective. Where we're gonna talk about it, but we don't just want to talk about it. We want to make sure that we're setting in place a plan to walk these things out, from political things, to educational things, to historical things, to racial things. It's gonna run the gamut. The church thing most definitely being men of faith, and in our faith tradition, there are things that we're gonna talk about. It's gonna be comfortable and uncomfortable. We're not trying to comfort people. This is where the cross meets the culture. So, cross us being men of God and the culture, real life things that's happening in the culture. But you never know. We might be talking about Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. Definitely gonna talk about Jay-Z and Beyonce. But you know me. That's what it's about, man. Just three brothers, man, getting together and chopping it up about things that are relevant to our people. And we are African Americans. We are black men, so our context is very black, and I guarantee you this: we will talk about all issues, but we're going to come from a very black place.
No doubt, and unapologetically at that.
Right.
And I like the idea of, this is where the cross meets the culture, because we've got to do that, man. And I think that people appreciate it. So since we talking about it, let's jump right in it, right?
Yeah.
It happened to us again. We heard about another brother unarmed getting shot by police, and what makes this so horrific, we remember the Philando Castile, who got shot in his vehicle in front of his baby, in front of his mother. This gentleman, Jacob Blake, from the accounts that I have read, he was in this place. He was breaking up a fight. This is the kicker. He was breaking up a fight between two white women. Now he's breaking up a fight between two white women, but the black dude ends up with bullet holes and in the hospital. Shot 7 times in front of his kids, point blank range in the back. And right now, so far he has survived the shooting, but there is this idea of some paralysis. What are we doing, man? What are they doing is the question. You know what I'm saying? We're back here again. So what are we supposed to think, man?
Well, I have nothing to think about. It's an indication that this is calculated. This is a poor decision. That is basically just a regurgitation of the culture in which many of these police officers are a part of. I don't have. You can't make sense of this. This man is in front of his children. This man is walking away, right? As police officers, you talk to, and I'm the son of a police officer. My dad was a police officer for 32 years, man. So I'm not speaking from a place of not knowing what's going on. I mean, these are calculated attempts, because I believe that there's a sense of entitlement attached to the belt loop of white supremacy. And when those things, form together, what happens is that there's no regard. There's no regard. And so this is another instance, another lynching in our community that is on TV. And we'll see if we have to wait 164 days for justice for this too.
Like our lady who got killed in her house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mercy. I have set in place for myself for my own mental health, not to engage and watch videos and read very little. I read only because it's going to come on the show. Otherwise, I've seen what other people have posted, but I haven't really engaged in what happened. Not because I don't want to be informed.
So this is another instance, another very little. I read only because it's going to come on the show.
For me, what I struggle with is how I'm going to respond to all officers, right? Not the ones in Wisconsin. How I'm going to respond to, I deal with the juvenile system. So how am I going to help them to navigate through these moments? And they can be a good Samaritan to get shot. How can I help us through this stuff without making all police officers look bad, right? Because it's not all police officers. We're talking about a system, right? And it keeps coming back to the system. The system is rooted in oppression and racism. That's what it is. Until we deal with that, we're not going to be able to unpack everything we need to unpack under the guise of racism and oppression, because that's the root of it. We can hire new police officers, but if they're in the same system, then it doesn't change anything. So now we're not just dealing with the system, we're dealing with a mentality, right? We're dealing with a psychology, dealing with a lot of things that go into play for the system, because you can be a black officer, or white officer, or brown officer. The system is the issue, not the officers, right? And so, the officers should get the blame. They need more training and all that kind of good stuff. It's the system that allows them to be able to do this, and then we're still waiting for Breonna Taylor's murder to be arrested and convicted of the crime of murdering that young lady.
Yeah. So here we are. we've seen them over the last few weeks. They released these new tapes as if that was going to change our mind about what happened to George Floyd. The bottom line is he was still lynched in public in broad daylight. They still have not arrested the murderers of Breonna Taylor. We're still waiting on that to happen. And by the way, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky is speaking at the Republican National Convention. We'll talk about it. So we're still waiting on her murderers to be, arrested. We have not heard anything further from the Ahmaud Arbery case other than that his murderers have, thank God, they've been arrested, but they still have not gone to trial. And so on top of all of that, now we have another black man unarmed, lynched in public in broad daylight. It's almost as if these police officers are operating without impunity. And again, this is, Vince is coming from a place where his father worked in law enforcement. I'm coming from a place where I worked in law enforcement. You have a connection to law enforcement. And it's like you said, it's not necessarily the person of the police officer, but it's the system upon which it's built. And one of the things that infuriates me is, we're around here telling people Black Lives Matter, and God knows that they do. And their retort is Blue Lives Matter. And I have to tell them there's no such thing as blue lives. That's an occupation. You can take off that blue uniform anytime you get ready. I cannot take off this black skin.
Right.
And so I cannot fathom how this keeps happening, and we're always on the recording side or the other end of the barrel, and it seems like nobody cares.
It's interesting. That's one that even for the cop that's black, right? Does his blue life matter? I mean, let's be honest about this, because that's a huge issue. There have been cops at rallies that I've attended. There's been black police officers at rallies that I've attended, and they will tell you, right now, I'm probably as safe as I could possibly be.
Wow.
Right? But from a position of, people not knowing who they are, the community ain't gonna trust you. Right, when you have that uniform on. So then I take the uniform off and I go back to being, an oppressed people. Right, I put the uniform on. 9 times out of 10, I'm not always trusted by the people in my community. I take the uniform off. Right, now I'm a target. Right, so when you come up with these other sayings, it's just almost like a slap in the face. Right, because there's no comparison of cops being killed compared to the unarmed black men and women that have lost their lives at the expense of unfair justice and unfair treatment, injustice and unfair treatment.
No doubt.
Yeah, it would be remiss of us to not include. I know this was last year in Colorado, Elijah McClain, but those officers murdered that young brother too. They need to be held to a standard that they would hold me and you to. We'd be under the jail, prosecuted, and we wouldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel had we killed a young man with such a beautiful spirit. So I want to throw his name out there too, man. And there are countless unnamed people who didn't have a recording, whose life was taken, man. That we could talk about, that we don't know about. But again, we have to. When it comes to this, we don't just want to talk about it. We got to figure out a way to walk this thing out. Like, what can we do? Because I can't feel helpless and hopeless. I cannot. I'm a man of God. That's not in me. So I can't feel helpless and hopeless. But what do I do? What do we do? Right? What do we do to enact change? Because it has to start somewhere. Right? If the system's going to get turned upside down, going to have to start somewhere, but how do I start? Where do I go start? What do I need to do? So, that's my question for us, man. What are we going to
do? Yeah. So, in that, let's talk about, what do we do? Because, we just finished the Democratic National Convention.
Right.
We're now, the Republican National Convention is now going on. There is absolutely no doubt where they stand as far as the Republican National Convention is concerned. They are so bold as I said, they've got the Attorney General speaking, who is the Attorney General of Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor lived and was killed in Louisville. He is speaking on the Republican National Convention. Not to mention, I don't remember if y'all remember the white couple that came out on their lawn with their gun. They spoke at the Republican National Convention. We know historically the GOP has been funded by the NRA. So I think they are making it very clear where they stand as far as the police force, law and order. And let me make this disclaimer. The Black community is not saying we don't want law and order. We just want you to be fair and equitable when you do it. I shouldn't be calling you for help, and I'm the one that ends up shot. I don't know if y'all saw the teenagers that were being chased by a homeless man with a knife.
That was in Southern California. Yep.
Right. So and they are the ones that ended up in handcuffs. How is it that we're calling you for assistance? We're calling you for help, but we end up in the handcuffs. So and then I don't want to really I don't want to relieve the Democratic National Convention or that part of it, because some people have a problem because Kamala is on the ticket. She has a history of being the state prosecutor for the state of California, and so on both sides there are some issues as it relates to the police and the Black and brown community. So where do we start when we look at this process?
Well, I believe that over-policing has to be legislated. I think that's where we start. That there has to be some fundamental laws, that restrict the over-policing of our communities. Man, I literally watched a police officer pull into the alley by the church because he saw a car pull down the alley that didn't look like it belonged. But the guy across the street from the church, right, he helps people, he fixes on cars, he has his own business, right? So he has a garage behind his house, and so this idea of over-policing, this idea of militarism in our communities is not needed, right? And there needs to be some sort of there needs to be some accountability. I've even said as well that I feel like police officers need to be licensed just like teachers and psychologists. They need to have a license, and when you mess up, that license needs to be revoked, so that if you mess up in Columbus, you can't just go to Dayton and just lay low for a little while and keep getting a check. Right. And these things have to be pushed through in legislation because there has to be change. There has to be some sort of reform because the culture, and I don't even want to say reform, there needs to be a dismantling and a rebuilding, because right now the culture, just like Amber stated, right, even the idea of, being suppressed, they have no voice, in a lot of instances. Many cops of color have no voice. Many women in uniform have no voice. Okay. And so until that is erupted, until that is deconstructed, we'll keep going through the same thing, man. Like I feel like we're in a pandemic, and I'm hearing more about police brutality than I did before before any of this happened. Right. And with the Republican National Convention, man, it's clear to where people stand, right? Okay. It's clear, and I just hope that we are aware enough and not distracted to not see through the foolishness. And not cape for things that sound good because they're different, right? I don't align myself with either or, right? But nonetheless, I do believe, I do know what I feel is best for my people at this moment in time as it pertains to Black America.
No doubt.
Yeah, even to keep going with the thought of the police and what we need to do, legislate. I love the idea, we bring that up, of them having a license, them being held accountable. I'm also a believer that as a community, um, you know, we need to force relationships. We need to be intentional about our relationship with them. Like you rolling through the hood, come holler at me, Mr. Officer. Let's talk. Let's just chop it up. Let's just build relationships. So you're not policing me, but you're protecting me, right? If you don't know me, you're going to police me. But if you know me, you're like, oh man, that's goofy. Hey man, you know you don't need to be in these streets, and
No
keep
doubt.
rolling, right? So now I'm protecting you as opposed to policing you. But the system is a police system, right? And so, definitely legislation, definitely holding them accountable and making sure, and if they have license, and take the system, tearing it up, tearing it down and build it back up. But then, you guys talk about the Republican, national convention going on, and I'm gonna tell you the real issue I have with. I have issues with both parties, great issues with both parties, but with the Republican Party right now, the issues I'm having is that they're calling me dumb. They're calling me because I'm not choosing them. They're calling me dumb because I'm not choosing them, and they're calling me a heretic, or they're calling me ungodly, right? I'll say his name, John MacArthur, a prominent, white evangelical preacher, said, if you vote for a Democrat, then you're not a Christian. Basically, is what he said.
Right.
And I'm not saying if I am or I'm not, but you're not about to punk me, right?
Right.
Or you're not gonna make me feel dumb, or everybody, then you're ungodly. Who are you, right? So what the problem I'm having with them is that this privilege that they have. They have this overwhelming privilege, and they can't see it. Like everybody stepping on that stage, they're coming from a place of I'm right. I'm 100% right, and I'm right. It might you can change the R with the WH. I'm white, right? Even I'm so
Self-righteousness.
that's what I hear. That's what I hear. Even when they put a black face on it, I still hear that. And I'm not trying to be against the Republican Party at all. Because
Right.
again, I can list a gang of stuff about Democrats that I can't stand, right? But they even though they treat me like I'm dumb, they're not bold about it. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They kind of we want you to vote for us, we won't take care of you type of stuff, right? We ain't gonna never do nothing where you can just vote for us and we're gonna say the right thing, you're gonna have more black people on our platform. That's cool. I'm tired of the rhetoric. But with the white, the right, they are overtly, saying you're dumb if you don't think like me, if you don't think right, or if you don't think white,
No doubt.
then so that's you guys know I'm not really into politics at all, man. I'm just like Ice Cube, man. That's why he's not political. He's like, man, we just got to do something. We got to hold them accountable to something. So that's where I'm at with it, man. Blue or red or right or left or whatever, man. We're gonna do right by my people.
Yeah, yeah, and Vince was talking about how we've got to tear down this system and rebuild it, and that's why there has been this call for defund the police. But when some people hear the words defund the police, they hear abolish the police, and we've never asked for an abolishment of the police. We want you to defund and destruct the system upon which they were built, so that they can do this policing differently. There are some communities where they have made it where the police officers that join the force have to live within the jurisdiction in which they're going to patrol, because they want to increase community policing. Because it's like you said, if you don't have a relationship with me, you're not protecting me, you're policing me. So they want to increase the amount of the communities that they live in, because if when we were growing up, or back in the day, they always sent the black police officers to the black communities because, number one, they didn't want to be over there, but also it was good for us because they knew us. It's just like when you went to school, when back in the day, when you went to school, the teachers came from the community, so they knew your parents. I remember when I went to school, at least 2 or 3 of my teachers were sorrows of my mother. So how was I going to act up? They knew my mother, right? And the other thing is, because they had that relationship with my mother, they ensured that I was looked out for, that if they saw me doing something wrong, because they knew, if a black kid acts up, he gets expelled, he gets suspended. And so they always ensured that I stayed on the right path. The same thing with policing, man. If you know me, if you live in the community in which I live in, then when you see me acting up, instead of the first action being, let me take you to jail, is, hey, man, what you doing out here? Let me take you to the house. I can remember vividly, when I was, working, in law enforcement, and I predominantly worked on the federal side, and with the military. There was a sergeant major, had been in the military nearly 30 years. I saw him weaving in the road. I didn't know who it was when I got behind him. I just saw a drunk driver on the road. So, put the lights on and pulled him over. And so when I go up to the vehicle, it's Sergeant Major. This is a black sergeant major. Now, I understand the career he has built. I know the respect that he has built and who he was, to those soldiers. So what good would it do for me to ruin his career? So what did I do? Sergeant Major, get in the car. Let me drive you home. Don't come out here and come and get your car until tomorrow. If I see you back out here, then I got to do what I got to do. But this one is on me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I had a relationship, because I knew who he was, because I knew where he came from, and I didn't want to ruin that. We don't have that anymore, man.
And it's funny, Antoine, that you could tell stories like that, because my father could tell stories like that as well, right? But it's also the sense of community. When you know your community, at the end of the day, it's just like a child you see in the community acting up. Like, come on, man, your mama wouldn't approve of you out here acting like that, right? I went to the same elementary school where my mama was the nurse, right? So all the teacher had to say was, Mr. Ford, do we need to send you to the nurse's office, right? And I knew it had nothing to do with me being sick, but I was going to be sick if I went down there, right? But it was just that idea of community, that people knew it. And it's kind of interesting, man, because, I get a little, irritated when I see individuals caping for Donald Trump, man, but really don't look behind the scenes of what's really going on. There's a program. So when I was in Phoenix, they used to have these community-oriented officers, right? So they wouldn't necessarily police, but it would be kind of like they would go to spots in the community where a lot of young high school brothers and college brothers would hang out. And, they would talk to them about becoming a police officer, right? So, they would invite them to do like ride-alongs. It was just like a community-oriented policing service, right? An acronym for cops, right? Well, what I've been trying to show people is that, Trump's administration has been cutting this funding since February, man, because they don't want community representation on the police force. No because doubt. When you have community representation on the police force, what ends up happening is now, I know little Johnny, I know little Lisa, right? I know Miss Margaret. That's Miss Margaret's grandson. So I'm not that quick to arrest Miss Margaret's grandson. I'm going to take Miss Margaret's grandson home, and I'm going to talk to Miss Margaret, and I'm going to say, hey, this boy's out of control. You need to get him squared away. But when I'm not raising up leaders in my community to come back and serve my community, I have people in the community that are working. Their only job there is to work, right? And so oftentimes people don't necessarily want to be at work. And so that mindset, what it does, it already puts me in a negative place if I don't have any idea about the community, right? So that's that. I just want people to look behind the scenes, man. Look at what they're taking money away from. We talk about defunding the police. Man, y'all been defunding public education for the last 20 years, and ain't nobody said nothing.
So you're right.
Man,
go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
With this thought process, man, I was just thinking about the protests, right? And there were certain areas where they would, let the tear gas and the rubber bullets fly. Out here, man, when they start coming to the west, right, more west in LA, to like the bit towards Beverly Hills, no rubber bullets didn't fly because those kids who were underneath those black masks, that could have been one of their nieces, their nephews. They didn't know who it was. See, when it's us, they know it's us. So to couple that with policing, that's just, it's natural. It's natural to gravitate towards that. And so I'm not mad at it. I respect it, but let us be at home. Let us police ourselves or protect ourselves. So I'm 100% with having, the officers just live in the community and be a part of the community and then take care of the community. And, you know what I'm saying? I think that would alleviate a lot of other things that we deal with within the community when we talk about, gang violence within the community. I think if you have police officers living in the community, protecting the community, then those numbers drop down there too. But that's just too much like perfect. Like it makes too much sense for us to do in American society.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something that's often controversial when I say it. We had that when we were in a segregated society, and I'm a person that believes that this is just me. Everybody doesn't agree with this. I believe integration hurt our community. I think when we started out talking about separate but equal, that's what we really wanted. I'm cool with you stand on your side and me stand on my side, but just ensure that the same stuff you get, that we get, and we don't have to worry about this. But it was like once they signed the Civil Rights Act, we went to partying and they went to planning, and it just got even more diabolical from there. You know what I'm saying?
And now I feel like, we're doing a lot of protesting, but I don't feel like we're doing enough planning.
No doubt.
And even furthermore, with the RNC, that little promo video of all the black people in the 1960s and March on Washington, like that was a glorious time. Like, bro, that was not a glorious time for my people. I don't understand. That's what kills me, man. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of white individuals, man, who believe that is a point of celebration for our community, and it is a point of grief. It is a legislative advancement, but people were getting water hosed, people were getting lynched, people were getting shot, people were getting beaten. Martin Luther King, and in the 60s, Dr. King and Malcolm X had been assassinated. We lost a number of leaders. Then you move to the 70s. We lose a number of leaders. You move to the 80s. We're still losing leaders. They're exiling us. They're killing us. And see, that's the thing. When we have our leaders, we have one leader, we're either exiled, killed, or threatened to the place where it's very difficult for us to make any headway. I thought about this with Colin Kaepernick. Right. And I know he meant well, and he's heralded as a hero, but that idea of planning, imagine if he would have, just say, I'm going to just talk to all my football players and I'm going to see what their thoughts are on this. And we're going to come together, on this game, and we're all going to kneel. Right. And you got to be ready for that proverbial blackballing when you go out on a limb on your own. And we are at a place now that we only represent 13% of this country.
No doubt.
We cannot afford to put all of our eggs in one basket.
No doubt.
We need an entire community that's going to stick together and stand up and say enough is enough. So it's just like economics. It's just like housing. It's just like gun violence. All of these things have to be dealt with. But we got a plan, and we need to collaborate.
So know who got a plan?
Let me say this real quick, Al. Let me say this real quick, because you said something important. The 60s, because you got to look at it. They killed Martin Luther King, who was really the voice of the black community at the moment, right? And so it's much like Easter. We celebrate Good Friday, but for the people of that day, Good Friday was not a good day. Their savior had just been killed. We celebrated, but for them, contextually, it was not a Good Friday. And so in the same way, as in they want us to celebrate the 60s as if that was something, but you killed the very voice, the two voices of the black community. So how are we celebrating that? You understand what I'm saying? I'm listening now. What's up?
Oh man, I was just saying Ice Cube got a plan, but I was just messing around because you know how I feel about Ice Cube and his plan, man.
We're gonna talk about it.
But in the vein of segregation and how it hurt us and it helped us, I think we talked about this yesterday, Vince, where we wanted to integrate, right? We wanted to be a part of their system. We wanted to live like them, right? So now we wanted to send our kids to be taught by people who hate us. We want to, now we want to be included places where we are hated for, and we thought that, we arrived. Once we finally got there, we arrived, we suffered through. They spit on us, but we stand in now. We get to live with them. We get to go to school with them. But like Vince said, they gave us these few advancements. They was like, okay, what we gonna do next? How we gonna start building these prisons? You know what I'm saying? Because they know the 13th Amendment. We don't know the 13th Amendment. So so they like, yeah, we're gonna let a few of them in. We're gonna let a few of them in, but what are we gonna do with the masses? How are we gonna control them? They have think tanks. They have people who sit around and think about the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and we're just trying to get through today. So like Vince said, man, we got to get to a place now where in this enlightenment in this era of where we are, we're really waking up. We're not just woke, really waking up on some other levels. It's not just, was Jesus white or black? It's on a whole nother level right now for us. In all spaces and places, we have to really sit down and be strategic about what we do. We just can't go out there and talk. We just can't, you know what I'm saying? It's a talk. Don't just talk about it. How we gonna walk this thing out, right? That's the whole thing that we're really standing our platform on here, is that we don't just want to talk about this stuff. We don't walk this stuff out, right? And then one more thing, as it pertains to the Black community and us being going into those spaces where we felt like, okay, now we've arrived. The biggest misconception for me when it comes to the 50s and 60s and protest and leadership was that we had these two faces that we highlight. We highlight Dr. King and we highlight El-Hajj Shabazz and Malcolm X. Those are the two people we highlight. But it was churches and mosques, people on the front lines behind the scenes were the ones who were actually galvanizing the community and getting the community together to do these protests. They weren't just coming haphazardly and just protesting because Martin Luther King's going to be here. No, at the church, you would go to your Wednesday night Bible class, amen, and y'all going to be talking about political stuff. Y'all going to be talking about things that affect the community. Y'all going to talk about who got lynched last night. Y'all going to talk about different things. You guys are going to talk about these things at Wednesday night, and then y'all going to say, okay, well, next Wednesday, instead of meeting here, we're going to go and we're going to boycott X, Y, and Z. And this is what we're going to do. They got that information from the church.
No doubt.
Where is, at Crosstalk, where's the church at in these conversations? What are we doing as far as it pertains to planning? Are we going to have a month where we, preach social justice sermons? Or are we going to actually start to plan, plot, strategize like they did in the 50s and the 60s and be the hub of the movement going forward? The center of the movement was the church.
I think it was Antoine who said this once. I think we were talking, and essentially, in short, I believe he said, that a lot of our social justice movements were birthed in the Black community, out of churches, out of mosques, because those were our safe havens, our only places in which we could strategize, and they would leave us alone, right? Because they're just, they're singing and they're right. But that has been the mark of our existence. If you look at slavery, how do we convey messages, right? And we would hide under the auspice of our worship, because culturally, it's very difficult for other cultures to understand how and why we worship from a place of hope, like that. And so our sermons, like. You can find a sermon on hope. You can find a sermon on resilience. You can find a sermon on dark time. No matter what church you go to, somewhere in this country, somebody's going to be preaching on hope.
No doubt about it.
Right. So the importance of this coming election, like, what do we really have to be hopeful about? To be honest, man.
Yes. So when we look at this coming election, I mean, the question is this: what is at stake for our community in this election? What's at stake, man? Because I remember 2016, somebody asked the question, what y'all got to lose?
Man.
And now here it is. We see we had everything to lose. So now, what is at stake with this election? Because to me, it nearly feels like this is do or die. We either galvanize or we in for a long time, because there is no way we can continue with what has been happening. You know, please don't get me wrong. I loved the Barack Obama presidency. A lot of people say, he didn't do a lot for the black community, and I think you have to kind of understand the position he was in. Because if they had felt that he was doing a whole lot for the black community, he would have never made it 8 years. And I understand that he got with the LGBTQ, but they came with a plan, and they came with resources.
And they came with a price tag.
Absolutely. We just came with a lot of ideas, thoughts, maybes, a lot of talk. They had their plan together. And so I appreciate what he did. But these last 4 years have really erased a lot of what he tried to do, incrementally. And this next election, it means nearly everything to our community. So what's at stake when we look at this?
For me, the least of the political guys on here, for me, it's an eyeball test more than its policy, more than who's going to be the next justice. And I know those things matter, right? I'm not unaware. I just don't like politics. So I'm aware of what are the different things behind the scenes that they say that are at stake. But for me, the eye test is this. These people out here getting reckless, man. I'm talking about these folks, these Trump supporters, man. They getting reckless. Look, during the Obama administration, I was in a lot of conservative groups, and so I just paid attention, and they were very hateful. It was just in them, right? And these are conservative Christian people, and they were saying all sorts of evil things about, President Obama. And so then, we move forward. These same people are, they're threatening. They're going into protest and doing violent acts. They just get more and more bold. So my eye test says to me that our nation is showing me that we are more violent than we were. During the Obama administration, during George W.'s administration, even during Clinton's administration, that we as a nation are more violent, we're more hateful. The way that we talk about people, the way that we talk about immigrants, the way that we talk about other nations, we are like fourth graders, and that's what I see. I see our nation as an elementary nation right now, and that's my eye test. When we start to do policies and stuff, I want to say this. This is going to be super controversial. So y'all senior ministers, y'all don't have to, y'all tap out. So a lot of people, when they talk about abortion, right? That's, they use abortion and they use the homosexual agenda. That's what the right uses as it pertains to, specifically when it comes to our communities too. They try to highlight that, right? Right. Abortion. Oh God in abortion, right? They're trying to, legislate, morality. But I'm just gonna tell y'all, when y'all start to really unpack the Bible, and you see how God would, in instances, say kill the babies too. If you see how a psalmist would say, I want to kill the children. If you see how Jesus was sought after to be killed, and all the boys under the age of 2 were killed in that moment, what was God's response in those moments? What was his legislative response? What did he call the people of God to do? He didn't tell them to do nothing. But we want to go and we want to make America a Christian nation, but America is not a Christian nation. I am sorry. It's not built on Christian principles, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have slavery. We wouldn't have treated women the way that we treated them. We wouldn't have done the indigenous people the way that we did them. So stop trying to make America a Christian nation, because what you're really trying to make America is a white nation. No Again, it's self-righteousness, self-righteousness, as opposed to what is God actually saying and looking for from his people in this moment. And I'm totally, I'm saying, I'm all for a woman's right to choose. And I hate the fact that some babies have to be aborted. I'm not saying I'm for abortion or against abortion. I'm saying stop using God's name on something that you guys really haven't unpacked and thought about biblically.
Yeah,
So, God created in the womb. God said this. Okay, let's really unpack it and talk about it. But there y'all go.
I think that the problem is they have tried to conflate Christianity with patriotism,
Yeah.
and nationalism. It's like you said, how in the world can you have a conversation about a country being a Christian nation that was never founded on Christian principles? Why? Because they wanted to seek religious freedom from England. That's cool, but let's talk about what happened after they got their freedom. They drafted black people to help them fight in this Revolutionary War with the hopes that they wouldn't have to be enslaved, yet they enslaved the very people that helped get their freedom, but they put them in chains. How does that even work? And for you to even make it seem as if this nation is built upon Judeo-Christian principles is a fallacy in and of itself. They have elevated their precious flag to the height of the cross. They have elevated their Oval Office to the height of the throne room of God. And in this point, John Mack, Jerry Falwell Jr., all of these guys see the guy that sits in the Oval Office. It's as if he's sitting in the seat of Moses and they have made him some king and made him the savior of the world when he is not. So how in the world are you elevating this nation who has been violent in everything that it has done? How in the world can you try to elevate this nation to a Christian nation? There's no way.
Well, y'all are both right. I really have nothing else to add. But I will add this, right? Preachers always say that, right? I don't have nothing else to add, but I'm gonna drop this in your bucket, right? Like my granddaddy used to say, you put this in your pot of gumbo and let it simmer. And so, I look at this idea, man, like, from a political perspective, we're playing this game of majorities, right? We're playing this game of majorities. And, I never watch the DNC or the RNC on TV, right? I don't watch it on TV. I watch it on YouTube so I can avoid all the side commentary. I just want to hear the speech. I want to hear what you're saying, right? And I want to move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm watching the RNC and I see hashtag Black America votes. And I'm like, what? we only make up 13% of the population, right?
No doubt.
I don't even think 3% of our community votes Republican.
Surely.
Yet you slap this up on here, right? Because you're playing this game.
No doubt.
And really the game you're playing is, like Alvin talked about earlier, you want me to know that you think I'm dumb?
Yeah.
So if I feel like that, I'm not gonna go vote. I'm not gonna stand in line. And then if we stay home, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lose.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
You see what I'm saying? So then you lump in these people, right, that have really never identified with the Black community in the first place. You ain't gonna never hear me quote no Herschel Walker. Right? Herschel said, y'all, this is what Herschel. You ain't gonna catch me doing that, right? Because I had to explain this to a preacher, man. I had to tell him, look, man, like the idea of identifying in the Black community is not skin color specific.
No doubt.
Right? I'm not Black. I'm OJ, right?
No doubt.
Tiger Woods, Cobb Lake, whatever he said he was, right? So this idea, like, it's interesting to me that as Black people, we feel like, and it's all and Alvin is gonna smirk at this, because I'm gonna quote some Drake. Drake said,
I'm leaving.
No, don't leave. Don't leave, because you're gonna dig this quote. The homie Aubrey Graham said,
the Canadian.
Somebody else wrote it.
He probably did. But he said the same thing you do for fame is the same thing you do for freedom.
No doubt.
And we have a lot of individuals in the Black community right now that are looking for some sort of resurgence of notoriety. And when they're addicted to that, right, they don't necessarily see freedom as helping the community. They see freedom as a tool to exalt themselves.
No doubt.
Right. And like, how can you look past everything else and say, well, I've known this man for 37 years. Man, you known him for 37 years and you ain't found out half the stuff we see on TV. So if you known him for 37 years, then I'm questioning your literacy ability, because we all know that when he get on TV and got to read something, you're like, boy.
You know, and what's funny about the RNC is, you know, Nikki Haley comes out and says America is not racist.
Who is that?
She's the former governor of South Carolina. She was the ambassador to
That's her fake name. What's her real name?
No, her real name is Nimrata.
Oh, Nimrata. Okay.
Because she is of Asian Indian descent.
Right.
So she uses her, you know, and that's what's funny about it. You know, this Asian Indian woman who is of Asian Indian descent, who has passed as a white woman in her circles, has the audacity to say, without skipping a beat, that America is not racist. Well, if that was so, why would you have to pass? Why would you have to use your middle name so that you could fit in? You understand what I mean? The hypocrisy knows no bounds, man.
Well, because we've misdefined integration.
Sure.
We've assimilated.
Simulation, no doubt about it.
That's just all that it is. You know, we even see this in our churches.
No doubt.
Some of our brethren believe that if it's the white way, it's the right way. Y'all swinging for the fishes now. Hey, you get what you get, bro.
Rhythm McCann clapping. Y'all can't have that Rhythm McCann.
No. Because once you get washed in the blood, it washes away your blackness.
Sin, my brothers. It's because they don't got no rhythm. That's why they. Get out of here. I'm gonna be good. I don't want my wife to get me.
Yeah. So you know, we up against the clock, but we gotta touch on these last two things real quick, man. So we talked a couple of weeks ago, last week. Cube's contract with America. So Al, I went and did my research.
Hey, look at him.
Went and researched it, read it, saw the 13 points, and I gotta tell you, I'm on board.
Now you come on out west, brother. Now you're official.
But because he's coming with concrete ideas. Just real quick, I'm gonna read the 13 headers, and people can go back and download it themselves. But you know, bill to guarantee black opportunity and representation, bank lending reform, federal funding of baby bonds, Federal Reserve and government pensions, finance oversight, personal data and credit, prison reform, judicial reforms, Police Reform Act, FCC licensing of public airwaves, Confederate monuments and institutions. He's talking about the removal of those. The AJP program for education and jobs, and Black responsibility. Now, I don't know if they intentionally made 13 or that was by happenstance, but I like the fact that it's 13 to go in accordance with the 13th Amendment. Because while the 13th Amendment supposedly set us free, there is a slave clause in there that helped them to build these prisons.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I look at his platform, because it's concrete, and I think, you know, we as America need to get up behind it. And when we talk about this Black agenda, I'm telling you right now, this is it.
Well, you know, I'll go. Al, you got it, man.
I'm just gonna say, man. You know, for me, it's I love the collaboration part of it, right? Because Q probably didn't write one word in that. He just went and got some people smarter than him. Like, look, we got to do something. We got to hold these people accountable. We got to have something concrete. Now he went and got smarter people, economists, educators. You know what I'm saying? Politicians. Say, y'all go ahead and y'all make it happen. I'm just going to be the face and I'm going to be the voice behind it. But it's collaboration. So what I appreciate about it is, yes, I believe it's a good plan. I think there's some things that should be added to it. But I believe, we don't have anything that we're taking like the LGBT community went and took what they had. This is what we want. This is what we're asking for. We don't have those type of things. So once we have something concrete that we're getting behind, then we say this is what we expect. Because after November 3rd, that's when the real work happens. That's when these things, these 13 points that we're looking for, prison reform and all these things that are under those 13 points. That's when we expect for you in your first 100 days to make sure you're checking off our stuff on the list. And over these next 4 years, you take care of us. That's what we're gonna do in 2024. We're gonna take care of you.
No doubt about it.
In politics, they have this thing where it's basically, representative demographics. That's in theory what Congress is supposed to look like, right? So if 3% of the country is Asian American, then 3% of the Congress men and women should be Asian. If 13% of the country is black, then 13% of the Congress men and women, senators, whatever it is, should represent that demographic. And one thing that I like about Ice Cube's plan is the cookie jar rule, man, because there are a lot of companies that have experienced a lot of wealth at the expense of human sex trafficking, unfair labor laws, and it's interesting to know too. I had a professional counselor, Shannon Martin. I actually went to Southwestern with her. She was on Community Conversations, and she even talked about how legislation is written to even give Black and brown women more time for sex crimes than white women, right? So you look at that. What's her name? Centurion Brown.
Yeah,
man. Like she, thankfully that there were some celebrities that stepped in, but man, like she was going to spend the rest of her life in prison, and that goes to show you that if I kill someone who is traumatizing my life in this illegal sense, and I defend myself, there's no telling what she went through, right? And that the system has been constructed to put me away for life, right? And then still allow individuals to make generational wealth off of the bodies of people. Man, that's sick, man. And so those things have to be dealt with. And even when he talks about those corporations, like having representation, me and Al talked about this, like Jamel Hill talked about, like, I don't want this commercialized response, right? Because Black folks gonna spend money, right? I don't want that. I want to see you put your money where your mouth is. I want to see your CFO look like me. I want to see your vice provost, your whatever it may be in high positions, your director of HR, and I want to tell all of us too, man. Listen. Don't turn something down because you feel like, oh, well, they're just doing this because I'm Black. So what? Take it.
Get in there.
Get in there so you can get somebody else in there. So when you go to the job fair, you can hire, you can do a job fair at Grambling. You can do a job fair at North Carolina A&T. You can do a job fair at Southwestern Christian College. You can do a job fair at these HBCUs because you then have the knowledge and you can bring some people in, man. So let us not block our blessing because of pride, right? Because of the timing of everything that's going on.
No doubt. So we are over time now. We can run into this real quick, or we can save it for next time.
What's the last thing?
This whole music and culture, man.
Save it. Save it. We're gonna be at another hour.
So listen, man. It's been fun, man. I think we it was got a lot covered, man. We talked about a lot. I think we gave the people something to think about. Our next show will be in September, the last Tuesday in September. We want y'all to come back and be with us. And the thing is, we are adding a voice to the conversation.
Yeah,
kind of break up some of this testosterone. We have the good fortune of Miss Amber Baldwin is going to join us and be a part of this to try to break up some of this conversation, to try to rein us in so we can stay on task. She'll be added to this. Yeah, no doubt. She'll be be a part of that, and I'm excited about that. If you have not checked her podcast, Sunflower Power, I'm telling you, do yourself a favor and check out what this young lady is talking about. It's powerful stuff, man.
It's good. It's good, man.
No doubt. You talking about vulnerability. What's that, Al?
September 29th is the day.
Yep, September 29th, man, right here, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 Central. Come be with us. What y'all got, fellas?
Hey, let's talk. Mondays on IG, man, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard, 5 o'clock Pacific. Man, September 3rd, I just want to let y'all know, I got my homie Dominic Merrick's brother, geologist. We're probably one of the smartest people I know. He's going to be coming on Community Conversations, teaching us how we can be better for the environment right in our own homes. And teach us some ways we can save money. I'm excited about having him come and do the show. And me and Alvin, we're just going to be rocking it, man. And, y'all follow us on Instagram. And we would love to hear from y'all. You can go back and watch all of our old all of our old conversations too. They're on my page. So, man, check us out. And I'm excited about Amber. Really excited.
No doubt.
Vince 486. That's the IG. Block Talk is tomorrow night, 7 p.m. West Coast time. That's late for y'all over there on the East. It's like 10 o'clock y'all time. Y'all might be in bed. But it's 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Block Talk, and I do another podcast called Straight Talk. And we roll those out randomly, but we normally record one a week. And let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Every Monday, man, we talking. Next Monday, this Monday coming up, it's gonna be centered around financial stability and finances in our community. So. I get to tap out of that one, and then our brother Jonathan Leonard is going to, co-host with Ben. So, yeah, man, that's what we're doing.
Yes, soon to be Dr. Jonathan Leonard, professor at FAMU. So, definitely looking forward to that.
No doubt. And I think Crosstalk is going to take a break this Friday, and we'll come back. I think we're going to talk about sex and salvation.
What's that? what is sex salvation, brother? I ain't never heard of it.
We're gonna talk about sex and salvation, where it crosses, man, because we're afraid to talk about sex in the church, but everybody doing it. So we gonna kind of tread lightly as we discuss that conversation. So check us out, man.
I'm gonna be in a thread, making sure that I try to provoke you to some, get educated out of the brotherhood.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Love it, guys. Appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to the next one, man. Y'all be good and God bless. Thank you, everybody, for joining there with us. Peace.
Peace.